Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. On the alien world of Clather 7, where two emerald moons hung in the sky like watchful eyes over every living thing, Ethan Carver led a quiet life. He was the chief engineer of the human settlement, a tall, wiry man with tousled brown hair and sharp, determined eyes. His days were spent keeping the power grid humming, fixing machines battered by ferocious sandstorms, and ensuring over 300 souls had light, clean water, and a fragile semblance of safety on this strange, unforgiving planet. Ethan wasn't a warrior. He'd never held a gun, never faced an enemy beyond a stubborn glitch in a circuit. But tonight, everything would change. He'd just finished a repair shift at an outpost generator on the settlement's edge. His flashlight cut through the thick darkness, the alien insects' chorus buzzing like a haunting melody around him. Ethan strode quickly along the dirt path, his heavy tool bag slung over his shoulder, when a sound stopped him cold, a low, guttural groan, thick with pain, echoing from the nearby forest. Clather 7 teemed with danger: three-headed spiders with venom that could kill in seconds, massive Korgath beasts that shredded metal with their claws. Every instinct screamed at Ethan to turn back, to alert the patrol. But that groan wasn't the roar of a predator. It carried the weight of life slipping away, a desperate plea for help. He sighed, muttering under his breath, "I must be insane," then veered off the path, gripping his flashlight like it was his only weapon. Beneath the broad canopy of an alien ancient tree, its rough trunk glowing faintly with luminescent sap, Ethan found a hulking figure slumped on the ground. It was Torvak, a Vraxian warrior he'd met a handful of times during trade meets. Vraxians towered over humans, averaging more than 2 meters, their bodies clad in natural black, glossy armor-like skin, their golden eyes blazing like fire. They were legends of strength, unshakable loyalty, and traditions as harsh as the world they came from. Torvak had been a bridge between humans and Vraxians, living among the settlement for 3 years. Now he lay dying. A deep gash tore across Torvak's chest, dark blood pooling beneath him. His battle armor was shredded, his broken sword discarded at his side. Ethan dropped to his knees, hands trembling as he pressed them against the wound, trying to stem the flow. "Torvak! What happened? Who did this?" Torvak coughed, blood spilling from his mouth. "Ambush, old enemies. Skarvex." His voice was faint but steely. "They've hunted me, for years." "Skarvex?" Ethan frowned. He'd heard of them: ruthless warriors in gleaming black armor, wielding crimson energy weapons, ancient foes of the Vraxians. "Don't talk, I'll get you to the med station." He fumbled for his comms, but Torvak's massive hand clamped around his wrist, stopping him with astonishing strength despite his fading life. "No, time's run out," Torvak whispered, his golden eyes locking onto Ethan's. "Listen, human. I have a final request. You must fulfill it." Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the gravity in every word. In Vraxian culture, a warrior's dying oath was sacred. Refusing it wasn't just an insult, it cursed the survivor. "What is it?" he asked, voice quivering. Torvak's breath slowed, each word carved like a command into stone. "My 2 wives, Kalia and Syris. They cannot live alone. By Vraxian tradition, when a warrior falls, his duty passes to another. I choose you, Ethan Carver. You will protect them, guide them." Ethan blinked, his mind blanking out. "What? Wives? You want me to take care of your wives?" He shook his head, disbelief crashing over him. "Torvak, I don't understand. I'm just an engineer. I know nothing about Vraxian customs." Torvak's lips twitched in a faint smile, his gaze dimming. "You have honor. I've seen it in how you work, how you treat the weak. They are strong, but they need a guide. You don't dominate, you stand beside." "I can't," Ethan protested, his voice rising in panic. "I'm no warrior. They won't accept me. I'm human. They don't even know who I am." "That's why you're the one," Torvak rasped, his hand loosening. "You see the world differently." With a final exhale, his golden eyes closed, his body still. The forest fell silent, save for the pounding of Ethan's heart. He stared down at Torvak, his mind spinning. He'd just been entrusted with 2 alien women Vraxian warriors he'd barely spoken to beyond polite nods. Would they accept him? Could he do this? But in Vraxian culture, a final oath was an unbreakable bond. There was no turning back. Ethan stood, his shoulders heavy. He glanced toward the settlement, where Kalia and Syris waited unaware of the storm about to crash into their lives. Ethan trudged toward the towering stone house of Kalia and Syris, perched on the eastern edge of the settlement. The structure loomed high, its walls etched with Vraxian war symbols, crossed swords, and circles of honor. The massive metal door gleamed under the twin moons, a gateway to an alien world. His heart hammered, his hand trembling as he raised it to knock. He'd fixed machines in sandstorms, survived power failures that could have killed him, but here, he felt smaller than ever. He rapped 3 times, the sound echoing in the stillness. The door slid open with a metallic hiss, revealing a towering figure. Kalia, head and shoulders above Ethan, her obsidian black armored skin glinting, her golden eyes piercing through him like blades. She wore light combat armor, a long, curved sword hanging at her hip, its edge catching the moonlight with a deadly shimmer. Behind her, Syris emerged, shorter but no less imposing, draped in a simple black cloak that hid her lean, powerful frame, her arms crossed, her gaze curious yet edged with suspicion. "Human," Kalia said, her voice deep and unyielding as stone. "Why are you here?" Ethan took a deep breath, fighting to steady his voice. "I bring bad news. It's about Torvak." He hesitated, searching for words. "He's gone. Ambushed in the forest. I found him, but it was too late." Kalia stood motionless, her face a mask, but Syris's hands clenched, her sharp claws digging into her palms. The air grew heavy, oppressive. "Who did it?" Kalia asked, her tone icy, danger lurking beneath. "He said Skarvex," Ethan replied, his voice shrinking under their stares. "Old enemies." "He couldn't say more, he was too weak." Syris tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "And you were there when he died?" Ethan nodded. "I tried to save him, but I couldn't. Before he passed, he left a final request." The 2 women exchanged a glance, wordless but loaded with meaning. To Vraxians, a dying warrior's oath was a sacred thread binding the living to the dead. "What request?" Kalia stepped forward, forcing Ethan to crane his neck to meet her razor-sharp gaze. He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling like a bug under a lens. "He told me to look after you too. Said that in Vraxian tradition, when a warrior falls, his duty passes to someone else. He chose me." Silence descended, cold and biting as Clather 7's frost. Kalia's golden eyes darkened, Syris's lips curling in skepticism bordering on scorn. "Explain," Kalia commanded, her voice cutting like a drawn blade. Ethan swallowed again, struggling to stay calm. "I don't fully get it. He said I'm to protect you, guide you. I didn't ask for this, I don't even know where to start, but he insisted a final oath must be honored. Right?" Syris advanced, her voice soft yet sharp as a gust slicing steel. "You? A human? A man who's never held a sword, never shed blood in battle?" "I know how crazy it sounds," Ethan said, his voice pitching up with strain. "I didn't want this. But Torvak believed in me, and I couldn't refuse him. I don't want to let him down." Kalia stared, her eyes flaring with anger and confusion. "You're not Vraxian. You're not a warrior. You can't replace Torvak." "I'm not trying to replace him," Ethan said, his voice steadier than he expected. "I just want to do what he asked. I don't know your ways, but I know this, Torvak trusted me. And I'll do my damnedest not to betray that trust." The women locked eyes again, a silent exchange stretching seconds. Finally, Kalia crossed her arms, her gaze still burning. "Fine, human. You want to honor Torvak's oath? Prove it. Show us why he picked someone like you." Ethan raised an eyebrow, unease creeping up his spine. "Prove it how?" Syris smirked faintly, a dangerous glint in her eyes. "We'll decide soon enough." But first, come inside. Ethan had a sinking feeling he was stepping into a test he wasn't ready for. But he had no choice. Inside the stone house, the space was vast and cold. Swords gleamed on the walls under the glow of a central fire, armor stacked neatly beside Vraxian symbols carved deep into the rock, predatory beasts and circles of honor. Ethan sat on a thick fur rug, feeling out of place in this alien world. Kalia and Syris stood before him, their eyes like hunters sizing up prey before the strike. You claim you'll honor Torvak's oath, Kalia began, arms crossed, her voice rumbling like distant thunder. But you're weak. No armor, no sword, no battle-won honor. Ethan sighed, forcing himself to stay calm. I've said it before, I'm not a warrior like you. I don't live to fight. I fix machines, keep things running. That's my way. That's the problem, Syris said, stepping closer, her golden eyes flashing. Vraxians don't follow someone who can't defend themselves. If you can't stand tall, how can you shield us? Ethan leaned back, the weight of their words pressing down. I get it. But humans aren't like Vraxians. We fight differently, survive differently. We don't always need brute strength. Kalia tilted her head, her stare cold. Then prove it. Prove your way earns our respect. Ethan frowned, voice wavering. Prove it how? What do you want me to do? Syris smiled, pointing to a long wooden staff leaning against the wall, a simple training weapon, heavy and scarred from past bouts. Fight me. Ethan's eyes widened, and he shot to his feet. What? No, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. He waved his hands in protest, voice spiking with panic. Look at you, you're twice my size, 3 times faster, and could probably kill me with a flick of your wrist. Kalia let out a dry chuckle, sharp as cracking stone. Scared human? Hell yes, I am. Ethan shot back, unashamed. Fighting you is like facing a war machine. I'm no match. Syris's eyes narrowed, her faint smile hardening into a line. Then refuse. Prove you're a coward, and we'll call Torvak's oath a mistake. Ethan clenched his jaw, fists tightening. This wasn't just a fight, it was about honor, trust, and his very place among them. If he backed down, they'd never accept him, and Torvak's oath would become a hollow burden. He took a deep breath, stepped forward, and hefted the staff, its weight dragging at his shoulder. Fine, he muttered, a hint of desperation in his tone. Let's get this over with. The duel began the moment Ethan stepped into the stone-carved training circle. Syris stood ready, her stance solid as a mountain, the staff spinning in her hands like an extension of her body. Before Ethan could blink, she lunged, swinging at his ribs with terrifying speed. He raised his staff to block on instinct, but the impact jolted his arms, sending him staggering back 2 steps. God damn it! Ethan yelped, scrambling to stay upright. Before he could catch his breath, Syris struck again, aiming for his legs. He jumped back, the staff slipping in his sweaty grip, beads of sweat breaking out on his forehead. This isn't a test, it's torture. Kalia watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, her laugh booming. Then hit back, human! Or do you only know how to run? Ethan gritted his teeth, breath ragged. He couldn't win with strength. Syris was too fast, too powerful, and he was clumsy as a deer among wolves. But if not strength, then what? He started watching, waiting. When Syris charged again, her staff aimed at his shoulder, he dodged at the last second. She missed, a flicker of surprise crossing her face, gone in an instant. Ethan smirked, clinging to a shred of confidence. See? Humans don't win with muscle. We win with brains. Syris didn't reply, just grinned faintly and attacked harder, faster. Her strikes came like a storm, the wooden staff blurring through the air. Ethan dodged frantically, rolling aside, leaping back, searching for an opening. Then he spotted it, a corner of the circle near the wall, where the stone floor dipped from old fights. He retreated there, luring Syris after him. When she swung again, he ducked, her strike whistling over his head, then lashed out at her legs. Thwack! The blow landed, making Syris pause for a heartbeat, just enough for Ethan to stumble back, gasping. Kalia watched, her gaze shifting from disdain to curiosity. But before Ethan could celebrate, Syris spun, her staff slamming into his chest like a hammer. He crashed to the floor, air forced from his lungs, groaning as he clutched his ribs. Syris loomed over him, staff planted on the ground. You lasted longer than I thought. Not bad. Ethan coughed, wheezing out. Great. Now let me lie here, and rethink my life. Kalia stepped forward, her eyes less frigid. Not strong, but not weak. You've got a mind. Ethan rolled upright, panting. So you'll stop calling me useless? Syris smirked. Maybe. But this is just the beginning. Ethan felt like he'd climbed a mountain only to see a whole range waiting ahead. That night, Ethan sat by the fire pit in the stone house, his body aching but his mind settling. Kalia and Syris sat across from him, their earlier scorn softened, though a cautious distance remained. You're not strong like a Vraxian warrior, Kalia admitted, her voice steady and low. But you're not useless. Your mind, it's different. Syris nodded, twirling a small knife in her hand. Maybe Torvak saw something in you we haven't yet. Ethan exhaled, managing a faint smile. So I'm in. Accepted? Kalia's gaze stayed sharp. Not yet. But you've survived day one. It's a start. Before Ethan could reply, a deafening explosion rocked the ground beneath them. The fire flared, dust rained from the ceiling, and all three leapt to their feet. What the hell was that? Ethan shouted, grabbing his tool bag out of reflex. Kalia and Syris were already armed, Kalia with her long sword, Syris with her curved daggers, their eyes glinting like predators on the hunt. The settlement's under attack, Kalia said, her voice calm but laced with killing intent. They burst outside, and the sight froze Ethan in his tracks. Skarvex warriors tall, clad in glossy black armor like living shadows, their crimson energy weapons glowing in their hands, swarmed into the settlement from the west. Explosions roared as buildings ignited, human residents fleeing in panic while Vraxian and human patrols fought back. Defensive cannons thundered, but the Skarvex were too many, pressing deeper with every step. We fight! Syris declared, her daggers spinning, her eyes blazing. Kalia nodded and charged toward the chaos without hesitation. Ethan stood rooted, heart pounding. He wasn't a warrior, no sword, no armor, no training to face these monsters. But then he noticed something. The cannons near the main gate had gone silent, smoke billowing from the control tower. The Skarvex had sabotaged them. Without those guns, the settlement would fall in minutes. Kalia! Syris! Ethan yelled, sprinting after them. I need to reach the cannon controls. If I can fix them, we can drive these bastards back. Kalia glanced back, her eyes flicking over the advancing enemy. The Skarvex won't let you through alive. They'll tear you apart before you get close. Then cover me. Ethan shot back, his voice firmer than he felt. Keep them busy, I'll do my part. Syris grinned, a spark of amusement in her eyes. Smart human. Without another word, the two warriors dove into the fray like a whirlwind, Kalia slicing through Skarvex ranks with her sword, Syris darting like a phantom, her daggers slashing throats in bloody arcs. Ethan ran behind them, ducking as crimson laser bolts streaked over his head, explosions rattling the ground just meters away. He reached the control tower, a small, listing metal structure, black smoke pouring from its console. Inside, he found the system locked by a virus, the cannons dead. Perfect, he muttered, pulling a hacking tool from his bag. Another day under pressure. His fingers flew across the screen, dismantling the malicious code, rerouting power. Sweat streaked down his face, his breathing shallow. Outside, the Skarvex roared, metal clashing as Kalia and Syris fought to shield him. A Skarvex broke through, charging the tower with a glowing red energy blade. Ethan spun, heart stopping. He had no weapon, no defense. But then Syris materialized like a shadow, leaping onto the Skarvex's back, her dagger plunging through its armor into its throat. It crumpled, black blood splattering the floor. Focus! She snapped, whirling to face the next foe. Ethan gritted his teeth, landing the final hack. The screen flared green, machinery humming to life. The cannons whirred, barrels spinning, locking onto the Skarvex. Boom! 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 Energy blasts ripped through their ranks, bodies falling in a haze of smoke and fire, survivors scattering toward the forest in chaos. Kalia stood tall amid the battlefield, her sword dripping blood, watching the retreat. They won't be back soon. Ethan slumped against the console, hands shaking. Good, 'cause I don't think I've got another one in me. Syris approached, wiping her daggers, a smirk tugging her lips. You did well, human. Kalia nodded, her eyes warming for the first time. Torvak was right. You've got worth. Ethan grinned faintly, feeling a crack in the wall between him and this world. But then, a low growl rumbled from the distance, not a beast, but engines. A massive black shape loomed in the sky, blotting out the twin moons. A Skarvex warship, bigger than anything he'd imagined, hovered like a death sentence. What now? Ethan whispered, blood draining from his face. Kalia tightened her grip on her sword, her gaze darkening. That wasn't their main force. Just a scout party. The real war, it's only beginning. The next day, Ethan stood before the Vraxian High Council in a cavernous stone chamber, its walls etched with ancient war symbols, predators, broken swords, circles of honor. Kalia and Syris flanked him, facing the elders, scarred veterans in battle-worn armor, their golden eyes cutting like knives. This human proved himself, Kalia said, her voice hard as rock. Without him, the Skarvex would have flattened us last night. Syris nodded, twirling her daggers. He fights his own way, saved countless lives. Torvak chose well. The lead elder, Varric, a grizzled warrior with silver hair and a voice like rolling thunder, studied Ethan from his stone throne. Warriors fight with strength. Guardians uphold honor. What are you, human? Ethan drew a deep breath, steadying his nerves under their stares. I'm an engineer. I don't have Vraxian muscle or training to swing a sword or spill blood. But I protect my way. Last night, I fixed the cannons, drove off the Skarvex, saved this settlement. Isn't that enough? Murmurs rippled through the room. Some elders nodded, others scowled. Goran, a towering figure with a scarred face, rose, his voice booming like a growl. You repair machines, yes. But that's not fighting. You're no Vraxian. You don't belong. Ethan clenched his fists, anger flaring. I didn't ask to be chosen. Torvak picked me, and I stepped up. I didn't run, not from you, not from the Skarvex, not from anything. Isn't that honor? Kalia's lips twitched with a hint of pride. Syris stayed silent, but her eyes gleamed. Varric tilted his head, considering. You've got guts, I'll grant you that. But guts aren't enough. To stand with us, you must prove yourself again. Face the hunt. Ethan frowned, dread rising. The hunt? Kalia turned to him, her voice low. An ancient trial. You go into Clather Seven's wilds, kill a dangerous beast, and bring back proof. Alone. Alone? Ethan paled, his voice spiking. You mean just me, no help? Varric nodded, unrelenting. Survive the wilds, slay a beast, return with its trophy. Only then will we deem you worthy of standing with Vraxians. Ethan sighed, dragging a hand down his face. He'd never hunted anything but system bugs and machinery. But he knew refusing meant everything. The duel with Syris, saving the settlement, would crumble to nothing. He glanced at Kalia and Syris. Any advice? Kalia's stare was piercing. Don't hesitate. The wilds don't forgive weakness. Syris smirked, teasing in her tone. Try not to die. It'd be a shame to lose you so soon. Real helpful. Ethan muttered, but deep down, he knew there was no backing out. At dawn, Ethan stood at the edge of Clather Seven's wilds, a rugged expanse of jagged cliffs, dense forests bristling with toxic thorns, and dark chasms like gateways to hell. He wore his old tech suit, clutching a short knife and a flare gun, the only weapons the council allowed. Every sense screamed as he stepped into the trees, the rustle of leaves and distant roars reminding him he wasn't the predator here, he was prey. He moved slowly, eyes scanning. Massive footprints sank into the damp earth, broken branches marking a beast's path. Then he saw it, a Korgath huge, four-legged, its black fur thick as armor, red eyes glowing in the shadows. Nearly 3 meters tall, its claws gleamed like razors, its jaws bristling with jagged teeth. It locked onto Ethan and roared, the sound shaking the forest. Ethan froze, heart slamming against his ribs. "Oh shit!" he whispered, stepping back. The Korgath charged, fast as an armored truck. He dodged at the last second, rolling across the dirt, the knife slipping from his sweaty hand. It wheeled around, roaring again, and lunged with horrifying speed. He couldn't outrun it too fast. He snatched the knife, hands shaking, and as it attacked again, he sidestepped, slashing its flank. Red blood sprayed, the beast howling in pain, but it didn't stop. Ethan retreated, gasping, mind racing. He spotted a rotting tree nearby, its cracked trunk fragile, one solid hit could bring it down. He bolted for it, baiting the Korgath after him. As it charged, claws raised, Ethan leapt aside at the final moment. Crash! The beast smashed into the tree, wood splintering, the trunk collapsing onto it in a cloud of dust. Ethan coughed, stumbling to the corpse, hands trembling as he cut a fawn 1/2 meter long and tied it to his belt. He exhaled, relieved. He'd survived. But as he turned to leave, a piercing screech split the air above. He looked up, blood draining from his face. Another Korgath, bigger, faster, with scarred, leathery wings swooped from the cliff above. This wasn't a lone beast, he'd stumbled into a mated pair's territory. Ethan yelled, sprinting into the forest, the winged Korgath diving after him, its wings beating gusts that tore leaves from branches. He ran full tilt, tripping over roots, clutching the fawn like a lifeline. It swooped, claws raking his shoulder, shredding his suit and leaving a stinging gash. He tumbled into a shallow ravine, rolling through mud and rocks, then looked up as the Korgath landed before him, its red eyes blazing like headlights. Ethan gripped the flare gun, one shot left. He inhaled, waiting. As it lunged, jaws wide, he fired the flare straight down its throat. Boom! Red light erupted, the beast roaring in agony, staggering back, wings smoldering. Ethan seized the chance. He lunged, grabbing his drop knife, and drove it into the creature's neck while it reeled. Blood gushed, the Korgath collapsing with a weak groan. Ethan sank to the ground, panting, hands shaking. He cut a second fawn proof of both kills and staggered back to the settlement, exhausted but alive. When Ethan returned, dragging 2 blood-soaked Korgath fangs behind him, the Vraxians watched in silence. He stepped into the council chamber and hurled the trophies onto the stone floor with a resounding clack. "I did it," he said, voice hoarse from exhaustion. "1 regular Korgath and 1 with wings. Am I one of you now?" Varric rose, his eyes gleaming as he examined the fangs. "You've passed the hunt, not 1 beast, but 2. No one's done that on their first try." Goran gave a dry chuckle, his tone tinged with grudging respect. "Maybe you're more than just an engineer, human." Syris stepped forward, smirking. "Not bad. I'm starting to like you." Kalia nodded, her gaze warmer than ever. "You've proven your worth. Torvak didn't choose wrong." Ethan let out a shaky breath, the weight on his shoulders easing slightly. He wasn't an outsider anymore, he'd earned a place among these warriors. But before he could speak, a thunderous explosion shook the room from afar, jolting the elders to their feet, hands on weapons. "What now?" Ethan asked, tension creeping into his voice. Kalia bolted outside, Ethan and Syris on her heels. In the sky, a colossal Skarvex warship 3 times larger than the one from the night before loomed, eclipsing the twin moons. Below, something worse emerged, an army of Skarvex 10 times the size of the last, hundreds of black-armored warriors led by a monstrous war beast 10 meters tall, clad in metal plating, its red eyes glowing like furnaces. Varric emerged, his expression grim. "This is their true force. Last night was just a probe. They mean to wipe us out." Ethan turned to Kalia, voice trembling. "I thought we'd won." Kalia gripped her sword tighter, her eyes blazing. "No. We only delayed them. Now the real fight begins." Then, a deep voice boomed from the Skarvex ship through a loudspeaker, cold and dripping with menace. "Surrender the one who killed Torvak, and we'll spare this settlement. Refuse, and everything burns to ash." Ethan went rigid. "The one who killed Torvak? They mean—" Syris spun to face him, her gaze razor sharp. "They think it's you. You were there when he died." The settlement plunged into chaos. Explosions roared like thunder, shaking the earth under Ethan's feet. Black smoke coiled from shattered buildings, mingling with the acrid stench of burning metal and the guttural roars of the Skarvex tall, alien warriors in gleaming black armor, their crimson energy weapons blazing in their hands. They poured in from every direction, a tidal wave of death too vast to stop. At the heart of the carnage, the war beast's 10 meters of towering metal-plated fury slammed its massive feet down, collapsing the eastern wall in a screech of splintering stone. Its red eyes swept the crowd, glowing like molten steel, each step a small earthquake. Ethan stood atop the control tower, gripping the cracked console's edge, staring wide-eyed at the endless enemy below. His breath came fast, chest heaving, sweat dripping onto the cold metal floor. Vraxian warriors and humans fought side by side, swords clashing against armor, screams mixing with cannon blasts, but they were losing ground. A Skarvex squad breached the western defenses, an energy blade slicing through a Vraxian's armor, black blood spraying like rain. Ethan looked away, swallowing hard, a tide of helplessness surging in his gut. "They want me," he said, voice rough, nearly drowned by the war beast's bellow. He glanced at Kalia and Syris, their golden eyes reflecting the firelight of the blasts. "If I surrender, maybe they'll stop." Kalia whirled on him, her long sword trembling in her iron grip. Her eyes flared with fury, sharp as a freshly drawn blade. "You think they'll keep their word?" She stepped closer, her voice low but cutting through the heavy air. "Skarvex don't know honor. They'll rip you to pieces, then slaughter us all." "Don't be a fool, human!" Syris stood beside her, twirling her curved daggers, the metal flashing under the half-hidden moons. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing, her tone soft but resolute. "We're not handing you over. You're one of us now. You've earned it." Ethan blinked, caught off guard by their words. Warmth flickered through his chest amid the storm around him. He managed a weak smile, lips cracked and dry. "Thanks," he murmured, but his gaze dropped back to the battlefield. The defensive cannons machines he'd patched 100 times whined from overload, smoke curling from their barrels like a dying beast's breath. The northern wall crumbled under the war beast's blow, debris flying, a human engineer's scream cut short by its roar. Ethan's fists clenched, nails digging into his palms. The settlement couldn't hold much longer. He turned to Varric, the elder standing a few steps away, silver hair whipping in the hot wind of the blasts. "We need a plan," Ethan said, voice quaking but laced with a resolve he hadn't known he had. "Or we're all dead." Varric met his eyes, golden irises glinting under the firelight, steady as a rock in a flood. He tilted his head, voice rumbling like distant thunder. "What's your idea, human?" Ethan sucked in a breath, pointing to the massive Skarvex warship hanging in the sky, a black behemoth, 3 times the size of last night's, blotting out the moons like a promise of doom. "If we take down that ship, their army loses its head. They'll panic, and we can push them back." Goran stepped forward, scarred face twisting in a frown. "Take it down how?" His voice growled, overpowering the distant blasts. "We've got no weapons strong enough. The cannons are trashed, and that beast is tearing us apart." Ethan scanned the area, eyes darting over the scattered wreckage of old cannons near the tower, then locking on a rusted transport ship, its hull dented, engines silent, abandoned after a failed supply run months ago. "We don't need new weapons," he said, voice hardening. "We use what we've got, turn it into a weapon." A beat of silence hung, broken only by Skarvex roars and clashing steel. Varric's eyes sparked with curiosity. "Go on." For the next 3 hours, amid smoke and screams, Ethan led a small crew, Kalia, Syris, and 3 surviving human engineers. They worked like ants in a hurricane, dismantling broken cannons, dragging singed cables, welding them onto the old transport. Hammers rang against metal, breaths came in gasps, curses flying when a tool slipped. Ethan knelt on the floor, hands slick with grease, eyes stinging from smoke, bolting a backup generator's booster engine into the ship's frame. His plan was insane: transform the ship into a flying bomb, a suicide machine to ram the Skarvex ship's energy core and blow it sky high. When it was done, the ship looked like a monster stitched from corpses, hull warped, cannons jury-rigged, engines screaming like they'd shatter. Ethan stood at the cockpit, hands trembling on the controls. He turned to Kalia, voice raw but steady. "I'll fly it. If I hit their core, it'll explode, and this might end." Kalia grabbed his shoulder, her grip strong enough to bruise. Her golden eyes darkened, voice firm as stone. "You'll die, Ethan." His name rolled off her tongue for the first time. Not human, but Ethan, a recognition he hadn't dared hope for. "Maybe," he said, meeting her gaze, voice unwavering despite the chaos in his chest. "But if I don't, we all die. I'm no warrior, Kalia. I don't swing swords or kill like you. But I can do this my way." Syris stepped up, claws grazing his other shoulder as she smirked, mischief glinting through the strain. "You're not going alone. We'll get you there. If you go down, you're taking some Skarvex with you." Ethan let out a dry laugh, brittle in the stifling air. "Fair deal." The final battle ignited. The transport lifted off, shuddering like it'd break apart midair. Engines roared, drowning the war beast's bellows below. Kalia and Syris led a small Vraxian squad, 10 blood-streaked warriors charging the Skarvex to draw their fire. Kalia cleaved through a foe, her sword tearing armor like paper, black blood splashing her face. Syris danced through the fray, daggers spinning, slashing 2 throats in a blur Ethan could barely track. Ethan piloted, hands white-knuckled on the stick, dodging crimson energy bolts from the Skarvex ship. One grazed the wing, ripping metal free, the cockpit jolting hard. He gritted his teeth, sweat burning his eyes. Through the cracked windshield, the Skarvex ship loomed closer, a black giant, its red core pulsing like a heart. A sudden boom shook the rear. 5 Skarvex armor gleaming, energy blades glowing leapt aboard from a small craft, landing with a screech of metal. They rushed the cockpit, blades stabbing the door, sparks flying. Ethan spun, heart stopping. "Damn it!" he yelled, hands still on the stick, the ship lurching as his focus slipped. The rear hatch burst open, and Kalia and Syris stormed in. Kalia roared, her sword slashing sideways, bisecting a Skarvex from shoulder to hip, black guts spilling. Syris leapt onto another's back, dagger piercing its neck, blood jetting out. "Hurry!" Kalia barked, blocking a blade aimed at the cockpit door, her sword quaking from the impact. Ethan snapped back to the controls, slamming the throttle to max. The ship shrieked, engines spewing black smoke, hurtling toward the Skarvex core. Through the windshield, the red glow swelled closer, closer. The last Skarvex breached the cockpit, blade raised. Ethan turned, hands off the stick, but Syris lunged, dagger sinking into its eye. It howled, collapsing, and she kicked it aside. "Go!" Ethan shouted, shoving the controls to their limit. The ship screamed, rocketing straight for the core. He spun to Kalia and Syris, voice urgent. "Jump! Now!" They leapt from the cockpit, diving out as the ship closed within meters of the core. Ethan felt searing heat as he fell, crashing onto a nearby ledge with a thud, shoulder slamming into rock, pain flaring. Kalia and Syris landed beside him, rolling to break their fall. Then came the boom. A massive explosion swallowed the Skarvex ship, red fire lighting the night sky. Metal shards rained down, and the Skarvex army below scattered in panic. The war beast roared once more, then fled, leaderless. Ethan lay sprawled, chest heaving, eyes blurred with smoke and sweat, watching the wreckage fall like shooting stars. Kalia sat up, sword still in hand, black blood coating her armor. Syris knelt on one knee, wiping her daggers on her cloak, smirking. "You pulled it off, Ethan," she said, awe-threading her voice. Varric approached through the haze, his towering form stark against the smoke. He stopped, eyeing Ethan, then the sky's ruin. "You saved us, human," he said, voice deep and final. You're Vraxian in our hearts. Ethan grinned weakly, breath still ragged. Just call me Ethan, he rasped, head tipping back, exhaustion flooding every bone.